What is going on, everybody? This is Audible Sports Kids. We got Brett and Jeff here. How's it going, Brett?
Good.
Good. And, we're sitting here, Combine Week, a lot of players looking to, change up the NFL and, put their name into the book, what that we call the NFL. And while we're ready for what, their futures are to become, I thought a pretty good idea to look maybe into the past and finish off our, just one episode where we just finish all the Added Legends that we still have left to do. We didn't really time it well with, the rest of the season. So I thought, hey, let's just get them all done, show you guys how kind of what we think, and then maybe later episode have a quote unquote winner of the Added Legend season.
Yeah,
and
sounds fun.
For anyone who
excited
doesn't know, yeah, I'm excited. There's a lot of names I feel like people might not know, and I'll go all the way back, so it'll be fun. But for anyone who doesn't know, Add a Legend, we look at NFL teams past, NFL team, their player that played for them, and look at what this team maybe needs, or what a player that was just so good the team needs to add for them to help win the Super Bowl, or for many of these teams just to help win them a couple games, because there's a lot of teams, and even some that are left, that they just need to win a couple games, and we just see who can help them. And so let's just get right into it. So first up, a team that has a very historic last 30 40 years, a team that has themselves a nice young rookie quarterback to play with. We're talking about the New England Patriots. Now, Brett, you've been, you've been around for the entire pretty much Patriots dynasty. I mean, I've been alive, but I haven't been able to acknowledge all of it, of course. While you might go, even farther back, who do you think gives the Patriots of last season the best chance to possibly win a Super Bowl?
I'm gonna go Willie McGinnis because I think they could use some edge presence. They have Judon, but I think that's the one thing they didn't get was a pressure.
Yeah, and especially if you look at that playoff game against the Bills, they
couldn't do anything.
Oh, Josh Allen looked like MVP Josh Allen that we saw a lot of hints of last season. And I mean, when you look at Willie McGinnis, he was a key part of that Patriots dynasty of the early 2000s, and you can maybe even make the argument that there isn't one without him, because that's how good he is. And whenever you add a key piece like that to a Bill Belichick defense, that's a pretty good, that's pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
You talk about, you already mentioned, Judon, Dante Hightower's there. They have some, pieces there, but when you have a guy like Will McGinnis, you can move around and stuff, and that's really good.
Oh, yeah. I kind of liked him in that.
Oh, yeah.
It was him or Teddy Bruschi, in my opinion, when I looked at it, but I couldn't decide.
Whenever you add two guys like that, they're team leaders. They're real, not only good players, but on and off the field, good people. Just great players, great defensive players, and Patriots and defense go good together. But even with that, I kind of went in a different direction. When you look at the quarterback they got right there with the rookie quarterback Mac Jones, you need to give him a really good weapon. Yeah, they went out and got a lot of pieces, but I wouldn't say anyone was a true number one wideout. And so you need to give him a true number one wideout, and it doesn't get much better than the Randy Moss. I mean,
that's a good pick. That's an exciting pick.
It is. I mean, you look at kind of like what he did, in the 2008 or 2007 season, the nearly undefeated. He just went off, and continued to play really good for them until I would say maybe even his final year or so there. But I mean, he's one of the greatest receivers of all time. I mean, there's not much you have to really say about him. He's just that good, and
Yeah,
that
he
mix
is.
of size and speed gives a fun player to play with and to throw. I mean, Mac Jones could use him, and that just adds another dimension to that team.
But can he throw far enough? No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, it's hard to under or even overthrow Randy Moss, so I think they'll be perfectly fine together. So, I mean, that'd be amazing to see. I mean, Randy definitely brings a voice to that team.
Oh yeah,
and it would be fun. It would be fun football. I mean, you always talk about these Patriots teams of being the dink and dunks, but this Randy Moss makes it fun to watch. I mean, obviously it's fun to watch already.
He would make it fun to watch. You're correct. Yep.
Exactly. But next up, we have a team that if it wasn't for so many injuries, we would probably see them make a deep playoff run. They have a really good defense and just had so many injury troubles that the offense couldn't keep up. I mean, at one point they played with 5 quarterbacks this year, if I remember right. Not 4. I don't know. Too many.
Yeah, they played with a lot.
That's the answer though. Too many. And that team, if you can't tell already, I mean, you could argue that they need a coach here too, but we're keeping it to last season, is the New Orleans Saints, and I think without a doubt you got to go Drew Brees here.
I mean, that's a great one.
I mean, Jameis Winston played good before he got hurt, but
well, I was going quarterback too, but I didn't pick Drew Brees.
You didn't pick Drew. Oh, you going old school here. You're going with the man who started the family tree himself?
Correct.
All right.
Archie.
You're going Archie Manning, who is about to have another Manning potentially in the NFL here in a couple of years with Arch, but we'll talk.
Potentially, he will be.
Potentially, we'll maybe talk about him in hopefully a couple of years. But, I mean, we obviously both see kind of the situation they have at hand. Yeah, Jameis Winston potentially could have led them to the Super Bowl, but he got hurt early.
Could be Mitch Trubisky.
It could. I mean, Mitch is kind of floating around with several teams, Steelers, Colts, is a kind of cheap option potentially, but at the same time, when there's a high demand, low supply, price goes up. But you just, without a doubt, adding a high caliber quarterback, especially, since Drew Brees is retired, you can get him at the prime of his time there with New Orleans. He's a fighter, he's a big team leader, and he's the whole reason that team has a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
He means so much to that city, not only on the field but off, and I just think it's a perfect fit. And you see, I mean, even when they started having these injury troubles, they kept asking, hey, you want to come back? So I think that says enough. Even him at where he's at, they want him back.
Yeah, it says a lot.
So, I mean, yeah, and Archie Manning is a good pick. You can say, he kind of played at the wrong time for the Saints. That's back when they called them the Aints, just because they ain't worth anything. But, I mean, people always, I mean, you can see how good his family was. So, surely, him now would be pretty good. So, it's interesting, to say the least. I mean,
oh, yeah, it is.
Definitely quarterback is the way to go. There's a couple other ways you could go. I mean, you could go with a receiver, Joe Horn or Marquise Colson even. That's a position that they could need with Michael Thomas not playing at all this season. But, I mean, you got to start. You can't really – a lot of people say you can't win a Super Bowl without a quarterback. So, hey.
I mean, you could even go Shockey if you really wanted to.
You could, but I don't want to. I'd rather go Drew Brees.
No, I'm just saying, not you. I just was a statement, not saying
that's
you.
True. That's true.
In general.
But yeah, I gotta go Drew Brees, and I think it may be the obvious choice. But hey, Archie Manning's not bad too. But next up, we have a team that I would argue is maybe one of the worst teams in the NFL, and only showed some bright spots, once or twice, beating the team previously talked about. But there's just a lot wrong with it. Injuries obviously didn't help, and a running back who is supposed to be one of the best, just still struggling, didn't help. But that team, New York Giants, and I think, I'm just going to go with almost best available here. I'm contemplating Eli Manning, but I'm going to go with someone they call one of the greatest, not only defensive players, but players in general of all time. And I want to see how he'd play in this generation. And that player, LT, nicknamed Lawrence Taylor.
It's a good pick. I went defense as well.
I mean, when you look at that defense kind of needs. The secondary's okay.
I went I went Strahan.
I was thinking Strahan. It kind of really came down between those two if I wasn't going to go Eli Manning. And
Yeah, I thought about Eli too.
Let's give Daniel Jones. I mean, he got hurt, so let's give him, a player on the defense to help.
I mean,
just
I
make
saw a
that team
few of their
better.
games. They didn't get much pressure. And I picked Strahan over LT because of the record. That's all.
I mean, yeah, I mean, he still has the record too. TJ was only able to tie it with some maybe controversy, but I mean, people even today, because when people talk about Aaron Donald being the best, defensive player of like all time, his name still comes up, and just to see kind of how his play style,
I don't think it
it's-
should.
I
Not
mean,
yet. Reggie White blows his stats out of the water.
That's true, and maybe we'll talk about him in a little bit with the team. But I just when you look at kind of the physicality and everything, Lawrence Taylor was definitely ahead of his time, and I would just love to see him today. That's what it comes down to.
I think he would translate.
I know it kind of maybe it reminds me a lot of like a Khalil Mack, and just the power he had, and it'd just be great. I mean, he was a key part of those Giants teams that won Super Bowls, and maybe without him, Giants wouldn't be anything.
That's true. Yeah, that's definitely true.
But I mean, you can say the same with Michael Strahan. Helped beat that 2000.
I mean, I think he translates for sure, just because I think most edge rushers translate, just for the fact is that position hasn't changed that much.
That is true. I mean, you can say maybe the farther back
you
go, the better.
You really have one job.
Yeah, I mean, it has maybe become a little bit more complicated with schemes or kind of fits or get whole. There's been a lot more concentration on pass rush specialists versus
I thought about going offensive line for the Giants.
I did too. There was a couple of guys that came to mind, Justin Pugh and among others, but I'm gonna let Danny.
I was
Dimes
thinking of the
run
coach's
around.
son-in-law. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, just Pugh. That's right.
No.
The other one?
Isn't it Deal?
Oh, Snead. Yeah. David Deal too, I think.
They had a good offensive line at one point for Eli.
Well, yeah, that offensive line there in the mid-late 2000s was pretty good, and was a key part. So you could go a number of those dudes, but yeah, we both went defense once again. But next up is a team similar to the Giants, aka a team they share a stadium with. You don't really want to talk about much, has a lot of holes, and I kind of went in a situation, obviously we're talking about the Jets here, I went in a situation that maybe helps them in the future, and bring in a guy that can kind of
I'm gonna go first on this one.
Okay, you go right ahead.
I think they need some personality, so we're gonna go Joe Namath.
Okay, you're gonna go with Broadway Joe.
Yeah, I think they need it. They're very boring.
That's true.
They need something. I mean, I wanted to go Revis, but I just don't. He's not going to win them anything right now.
Well, a team like the Jets, you might have to go with someone who just can help them for the future, and be kind of a someone to help
anchor.
Yeah, and I mean Joe Namath could potentially be someone who helps that team go around. I mean, yeah, they have a young guy there back in.
I just look at it as the New York. You need that pizzazz, in my opinion.
That's true. I mean, there's a whole reason why his nickname is Broadway Joe. But I'm gonna go a little bit of a different kind of direction and I think someone who could help Zach Wilson in figuring out how maybe NFL defense goes is the man who would be giving him the ball directly every single play. Just because it is for many, there is that situation where a center and a quarterback have to be a lot on the same topic and know how the blitz is going and a lot of stuff like that. So I'm gonna go with what people call one of the greatest centers in the game, or has ever been in the game, in Nick Mangold.
Yep, he was very consistent, very good for them.
Yeah, and he brings a lot of knowledge, and I think could help Zach Wilson improve on his game, and something just having a good center helps the team out a lot. A lot of ex players say you gotta start at the center if you want to have a good offensive lineman. So that's somewhere to start for the year. Next up, we have a team that didn't make the playoffs, but seemed to struggle a little bit. This is the Eagles that we're talking about, and I kind of went in a direction of helping their quarterback kind of get things better, and bring in somebody also who I feel like doesn't get enough credit for being who and kind of what he was. and I guess it is still today. He's still alive, but I'm gonna go with the wide receiver Harold Carmichael.
Old school.
Yes, and not only is he, the stats, all there. He's very quick. He's one of the top Eagles, not only players of all time, but receivers. He, I think, holds most of their receiving records. But do you know what was so special about Harold Carmichael?
I do not. Tell me.
He was 6'8" tall.
He was 6'8"?
He was 6'8", almost the one time that an NFL player at that position of wide receiver was ever pretty much documented that, and he was really good. Like I said, he holds many of the Eagles at one time, at least, records for kind of the franchise, and he just was very fast. He was 6'8", and he was a menace. Now imagine that today. Yes, he might have some injury issues, but that'd be crazy to play with.
With the height, if he uses his height to his advantage, hard to stop that.
Exactly. He would. I mean, just.
Well, my pick goes really good with yours then.
All right. Well, who are you bringing in?
Donovan McNabb, throwing him the ball.
That would be fun. Obviously, I wanted to bring in somebody who could help with Jalen Hurts, but I mean, having Donovan McNabb helps too. But that's a team. Yeah, they went out and drafted Devonta Smith, but they need another receiver in there. So I mean, bringing all these guys together.
I think that's why I think they need a quarterback too, just because Hurts is kind of.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at him, he definitely misses on a lot of throws, and there's a reason why there's a lot of
Well, and McNabb holds a lot of records for them too. So
yeah.
we both picked guys who are high up in Eagles history.
Yeah, I mean, he's the most. He holds the most throw-ups on potential game-winning drives in Eagles Super Bowl history. Just had to throw that one out there, but I'm not the highest on Hurts. I think he could be something, but he's got to, that's kind of what he was coming out of college. He was a great, kind of athlete, but there's a lot of questions on his throwing ability. So we'll see if maybe he can, still develop that. People said that about Josh Allen too. So hey, maybe he can figure out what Josh Allen did to help him, and have a guy like Harold Carmichael to throw the ball to.
Yeah,
but
it would be exciting.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, we don't see enough 6'8" wide receivers anymore. I mean, we haven't since him. I don't think we ever will again. They'll go and play basketball at that height.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe Carmichael could have been the best basketball player of the 70s, which that was a tough time to play at basketball. But next up, we have a team that is full of great players of its time. One of the most historic teams out there, has won second most Super Bowls, has players from all sorts of eras that could be on this list. And let's talk a little bit about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, it's a team that you could probably pick from any position. And considering this is what we're doing last seasons, you can't go Big Ben.
Terry Bradshaw, yes.
Yes.
I thought about that. I thought about Bradshaw, but I went different. But I'll let you go first on this one.
There's a lot of talk on how bad their offensive line was this season. And, let's bring in a dude who, he just looks the part of an offensive lineman. Look up a picture of Mike Webster. I'm sure there'll be one on your screen if you watch this on YouTube. But
he's a big boy.
He just looks like, he's a big boy. He looks the part. And he's known as one of the greatest, centers of all time. Mike Webster was. They talk so much about how bad the offensive line is, and once again, starting with the center, that helps the most. And he was a key part of that 4 Super Bowls within the 70s.
Oh yeah, he was definitely.
But what you going?
I'm going the quarterback of the defense. It's the Mr. Head and Shoulders commercials himself.
Oh, you going? I thought you were going with another man.
No, Troy Polamalu.
Okay. I like it. I mean, he definitely has the hair to play the part. But,
it's tough to say that he was running the defense, but he did a lot for that defense. They had a lot of great players that he played with, too. So
that's kind of like with any of these eras. You look at who they all played with, and, they were the teams because of how solid of a team they are.
Oh, yeah.
And, looking at Troy, everyone talks about how just great he was. Not only, great, but how smart and, how he could read the plays. And, you just got to look up. He has a whole... Whenever a player has a highlight of guessing the snap count, like a highlight...
Oh, yeah, he did that so many times.
Like, you just know that, That's crazy. And yeah, that Steelers defense is really good. You know, there is Minkah Fitzpatrick there, but adding a safety like Troy Polamalu,
He's not the same though.
They could take it to a whole nother level. And you know, I think that those two could definitely play well together.
Oh yeah, it would be exciting. I mean, he's one of those players that people enjoyed watching. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. But next up, we have a team, another historic team. You know, has lots of great players, and I think I want to go in a couple different directions. But I thought, hey, there's questions at this position, and I think the best thing for the 49ers to do is grab someone who people still call the greatest quarterback to ever play, and he looked pretty cool while doing it. You know, Joe Montana. And so yeah, I'm gonna go Montana.
That's a great pick.
You know, there's a lot of questions on Jimmy G, and he didn't play the best. And I mean, you're looking at the man who helped make the West Coast offense the way it is today. And I would love to see the weapons they have and everything. I mean, that he would fit perfectly with that team.
Yeah, I mean, I went similar direction, but I went with Steve Young.
Okay.
Because I think he translates more to the current NFL.
The left-handed quarterback.
But with his ability to move around.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
True.
You know, his mobility translates better right now.
Yeah, I can, for a little bit I did kind of wonder.
He didn't play as long as Montana, so I think that's part of the. He's always going to be overshadowed.
Oh yeah, it's Joe Montana. I mean,
yeah, I know. I sometimes I like to pick like a wild card, and I think Steve Young. I just thought of it, and I think he translates.
I think definitely he could when you look at that kind of escapability, and he's known as one of the best running quarterbacks, and it'd be fun. It'd be fun to see him, especially on that 49ers team with Shanahan coaching stuff up, and Debo and Kittle and the 15,000 running backs they always have. So yeah, it'd be fun. And
I think either one would win them more games than the current quarterbacks they have.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see about that one. There's, I guess, rumors that Jimmy G might stick around, but we'll see. And obviously Trey Lance is a work in progress there. Next up, we have a team where this one may be a little obvious to do. Seattle Seahawks, they have an issue at protecting a certain man that they've had for a while, and I think they should bring in a certain left tackle that a lot of people see as one of the best left tackles of all time.
Who's that?
Walter Jones. So I think that's who the Seattle Seahawks should bring back to help not only maybe keep Russell Wilson there for a little while longer.
I mean, that's a great pick, yeah.
I mean, who knows? Maybe he doesn't even get hurt this year if they had a Walter Jones, and they'd be right there with the rest of the NFC West that seem to make the playoffs.
Yeah. Do you know another position they struggle at?
A handful.
I'm gonna go Marshawn Lynch.
Ooh, that's a fun one.
Just because they obviously don't like any running backs they have currently. At least it doesn't sound like they do.
It doesn't seem like it, yeah.
I mean, I thought of Cam Chancellor. Don't get me wrong, but I think their defense is okay. It's the offense that needs help.
Yeah, I mean, Russell isn't happy, and part of that is protection. Walter Jones could help with that. I mean, bringing in a Marshawn Lynch to hand the ball off too helps that too. But I mean, you could argue Sean Alexander too. He was really.
You could go a lot. They have a lot of people you could pick.
I mean, I thought Steve Hutchinson a little bit too, another lineman. But I mean, Walter Jones is almost as good as they come. I mean, he's part of the 2000 decade team, the 100th anniversary all-time team. Like, if you want a left tackle, that's the dude to get.
Oh yeah.
And hey, I mean, maybe they'll bring Skittles back. I mean, he's made a return before, so don't count him out too much. But next up, we have a team where, if you look at them now, they're definitely a lot different than they were, even a month ago. And while we are keeping it, kind of like what we said for the Patriots or even the Steelers, we're keeping it as if it was last season. So, yes, Tom Brady isn't on the Buccaneers anymore, but let's act like he's still there. He almost won MVP. So who are you adding to this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team?
Mr. Barber. Because that was one of the positions they had so many injuries and they struggled at.
Yeah, I went back and forth on him, between him and another man, and I think it's still secondary, same era, and John Lynch. So
Good pick too, yeah. I mean, they're both great picks. They both had great careers.
Oh yeah, and when you look at what that secondary needs, they both bring, a style of play that could help immensely with the defense. So it'd be fun to watch them, and obviously, both of these guys helped, bring the Tampa Bay the Super Bowl that they won, and
definitely
could help, maybe they win another one with them. I mean, I don't know, they're definitely at the top.
Oh yeah.
Even if we were counting this after the season, it'd be tough to pick the right quarterback for them to play with. I mean,
I don't like if Brady's there and you can't pick Brady. I don't really like the quarterbacks you have to choose from.
No, I mean, it doesn't help that Tampa Bay was so bad for so long. Obviously, you could pick the same era when it comes to the quarterback, but do you really want to? No, you don't.
No.
This team was led by the defense. But
speaking, are you going to pick Brad Johnson?
No. But speaking of teams that maybe don't have a lot of players to pick, especially when you think of this team is, known for having a lot of this certain position when they have one of the best of this position in the Tennessee Titans. And so you think for yourself, can Ryan Tannehill make him to the top? Do you think Ryan Tannehill?
You picked the same player I did then.
Did I? There's two to pick from.
Oh,
are you going to the moon?
I think you went McNair.
I went to the moon.
Oh, you did. I went McNair.
I am bringing Warren Moon back. The Tennessee Titans used to be the Houston Oilers.
Yeah, I know.
I'm bringing him from Houston and bringing him to Tennessee, and we're winning championships. I
think that's the same as like the Niners. I think that if you can upgrade a quarterback, your likelihood to win a Super Bowl is a lot higher for both those teams.
Oh yeah. And the thing with Warren Moon is we really didn't get to see the best of Warren Moon. He was in, the Canadian Football League for so long because people thought, he's a black man, can't be a professional quarterback in the NFL. And
I mean, he kind of paved the way.
He did pave the way, and I just wish maybe we would have seen more of him in his career and in the NFL, and he would. Yeah, he's known as a really great player, but he might be one of those guys who could be the best quarterback of all time if he were given, the chance to be in the NFL.
It's hard to, we never know.
I mean, he's known as the best Canadian Football League quarterback. I mean, him and Doug Flutie are both up there.
I was going to say Flutie's up there.
But it's just, same with Steve McNair. You can argue that he definitely didn't get his whole kind of.
He didn't play as long as he should have either, I think. But
his
as much as I wanted to pick Eddie George, you just can't.
But Derek. I mean, even Earl Campbell, Eddie George. I mean, if you want to go with speed with Chris Johnson, I mean that team is.
I know you could pick so many running backs, but they have one, so it's like
that team. I mean, we might have to talk a little bit about who has the best running back, Mount Rushmore, but they're definitely up there.
The Packers are not. No,
they are probably. We might just have to rank the best, all 32 teams. Schedule that in. We'll see. But to finish it all off, let's finish it off with the team that loves to change their name just as much as they love having. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. But let's talk about the Washington Commanders, newly Washington Commanders, and even though it's a new name, they have an old history. And for me, I'm going all the way back for this one. A player that, was birthed before World War I. To show you something. And, for this team, there's a couple players I thought about. Joe Theismann, or if you want to say his original spelling of pronunciation of Theismann. But, let's go with the guy who pretty much was thought of, or is known as making the quarterback position the way it is. And so I'm going to go with slinging Sammy Ball.
Yeah, you went way back on that
I went way back. I mean, he was drafted in 1937.
Wow.
You didn't see that one coming?
I did not.
Yeah.
You went back farther than I went on a lot of these, I guess. I know the name.
The oldest we went back with any player.
Well, he's 1937 to 1952. I had to look it up.
Yeah.
I know the name, I just had to.
I mean, think about it. I think he's died before some players we picked even played in the NFL. I think Marshawn Lynch, who you just picked, drafted in 2008, same year that this Sammy Ball died, but that's beside the point. And, I mean, he's just known as being the first modern quarterback. So, hey, this team needs a quarterback. Let's see what Sammy Ball could do nowadays. I mean, he could punt, too, so make him the punter and kicker. Let him do what he used to do back in the day.
Yeah, that's true.
Obviously, you didn't go way back as I did, but who did you pick, Brett?
As much as and you could argue with me on this one, but I like it. As much as I like Riverboat Ron, I'm going to go Vince Lombardi.
You're bringing Vince Lombardi, the head. You're going head coach.
The team has no consistency to it. It hasn't for years. It's true.
I could make an argument with Joe Gibbs.
Yeah, I know Vince Lombardi wasn't there that long, but it's still Vince Lombardi.
That is true. That's an interesting one to say the least. I didn't expect you to go head coach with this, but I mean, at the same time, it kind of makes sense. Yeah. It does almost feel like Ron Rivera isn't a perfect fit there. I mean, they kind of brought him in because he's such a good guy with all the controversies that team kind of had.
I'm just saying, I don't know if there's not many coaches. I mean, Belichick's up there now. That top Vince Lombardi.
That is true. I mean, there's a reason that there's...
He has a trophy. The trophy's named after him, for God's sake.
Exactly. And yes, he was only there for, 1 year.
Season.
It would be interesting, to see. I mean, he wasn't really given much on that. I mean,
no, he wasn't that successful with the Redskins, but it's
the Commanders now. I mean, they were the Redskins back then, but hey, let's call them the team.
Yes, I just thought, I see that team as a very dysfunctional team for a long, long time now.
That is true.
And I don't think one player is gonna fix it. I think it's the coach.
You gotta start somewhere. I mean, you can argue maybe the owner before Dan Snyder, but
I didn't think owners qualified, so I didn't pick any owners.
For a team like this, you might have to start at the ownership just to change something around. But yeah, I mean, I'll take Vince Lombardi. The first head coach that's been popped up in this. I mean, I think.
I mean, I thought about Mark Rippon, if you're familiar with him. That only because he was when the Redskins played Buffalo those few years in the Super Bowl, they lost every time, but that was their quarterback. So,
I mean, if you want to stick with the coach, I mean, I mentioned him before, but Joe Gibbs, I mean, he was liked so much.
Oh yeah, Joe Gibbs was great. That Washington needs so much. That's why I couldn't pick up one position that would help them win right now. I just couldn't.
It's tough, and you could go with like a guy like Darryl Green, who long there a long time, but how much is he going to help a team that needs a little bit of everything? And just that defense was supposed to be good, but super inconsistent, and so what more can you do? But that's all we have for you right now. Make sure
stay tuned for us ranking certain positions on teams. I think we're gonna
we might do some stuff like that, and just keep an eye out on some stuff. Things are gonna get nice here soon, and we're gonna have some fun.
We're in for some big changes that you guys will enjoy,
and hopefully y'all tag along for the ride because we're having a party. But have a good one, everybody.
Later.